Hi, this is Robert Kiyosaki, and you're listening to Capital Hacking. This is the most important thing you can listen to today.
Here's the one.
I have a dream.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I could do this all day.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom.
Cinderella story out of nowhere.
It's in the hole. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Capital Hacking begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the big show. John Edwin running through the wall today. How you doing, buddy?
I feel like it, Josh. It was such a great show here with Michael Ward. It's very interesting to hear him talk about being in business with his father. So you guys are going to learn about a brewery that they have in Canada that specializes in English ale. And then he's also business partners with his wife down in Austin, Texas, running a super strong real estate team. And then there's a little secret at the end. You guys are going to learn about a game called Mahjong and how it's taking off.
Yeah, I was wondering if we should have named it that, but I still lean into the path is in the math, and he teaches us one of those secrets of excellent management, which is why his real estate team for his family is thriving. You're going to love this show.
Let's go.
Today's the day we got Michael Ward. John, thanks for putting this all together.
Yeah, so I've known Michael now for a little while. Fantastic guy, awesome family man and businessman. So we're excited to have you on, Michael. Can you give our listeners a little background on who you are?
Yeah, excited to be here. Actually, your guys' podcast, your intro actually makes me want to run through a wall every time I hear it. It gets me so pumped up. I'm Michael Ward here in Austin, Texas. Family man, as John mentioned, faith-based man that has multiple entities with regards to business. We've got real estate, brewery. We've got, all kinds of side hustles that my wife is working on right now. And just trying to do my best to grow personally, financially, professionally, all the things.
Wait. So you got to talk now. I know you're down in Austin, but you're from another country. It's not too far away.
Yeah.
So a little background of where you were born, growing up and that stuff.
Yeah, so I am from Canada, what could potentially be the 51st state of America soon, and I've been down here in Austin now for over 12 years. I met my wife, who's a Texan, at Houston Rodeo, and she braved 3 cold Canadian winters, and then that was about enough for her. So Southern girls don't like cold weather, and I was fortunate enough to be head of U.S. expansion for a company at the time that was ready to move into the U.S. in an aggressive way. And they said I could live anywhere I wanted in Texas. My wife's a Longhorn, so we chose Austin right away, and we've been here ever since.
So what year was that again, Michael, when you got to Austin?
12 years ago now.
Oh, so you really experienced a massive boom over the last 10 years of that property.
Yeah,
this city, region.
This whole area, especially being in real estate, we've seen so many shifts in the market.
Oh, yeah.
When most states were seeing massive dips, Austin stayed pretty steady. We're pretty blessed here to say that, while the market has definitely slowed, there's still not enough inventory to match.
Right.
So we've been pretty fortunate in that respect.
Mike, John, I'm sure you have some great questions. I met Michael through GoBundance, so we'll probably talk about GoBundance at one point, but we have to hear about the beer. How do we say it? Balzac?
Yeah, it's Balzac. Yeah. I mean, look, it's got its connotations. So I grew up in a ranch, a horse ranch just north of Calgary, Alberta. There's a small little hamlet there that is kind of, just north of the city. And it was founded by the president of the Railroad Commission years ago as they were building track. And they established these little hamlets outside major cities so farmers could bring grain to. And so he was the Railroad Commission founder he was a big fan of just reading and authors, and he named the small hamlet after a French author whose name was Honore de Balzac. Now, the funny thing is that now Balzac, Alberta is known for its connotations, and our brewery has a lot of that in our marketing. We've got shirts that say grab life by the Balzac. We have some great koozies that say nobody likes a sweaty Balzac. And, we're an English ale house. And so we focus on English ales, which actually was kind of counterintuitive to what the market was telling us, right? Everybody wanted hoppy IPAs and all these things. And that's just not who we were as people. We love a good, solid, low alcohol beer that you could enjoy on a patio at any point in time. And so it's rare you'll ever see a beer that's over 5% with us, but we go for really traditional styles of English ales. And it was something I started with my dad. And that's why it means so much to me is that, my dad, I'm a fifth generation oil and gas brat. And so, my dad had an exit from a company and was deciding if they were going to start up again. And, he was 65 years old and he said, I don't think I want to do it again, but we're not a family that retires or stops moving. And so
Right.
I just looked at him and said, now's the time, let's do it. And so now their retirement, so to speak, is they're the Sam and Diane of their city. They're
Right. What's Sam and Diane?
from Cheers. Yeah.
Oh,
Sam
okay.
Malone and Diane. Yeah.
Okay.
They're the Cheers of the city. We have a very English pub feel, but they know everybody's name. They
By the
come
way,
in.
whatever you did with your mic is so awesome. Thank you for
That's better.
adding
Yeah.
on
Sorry
it.
about that.
And let me ask one more question on this. So for those of you not watching on YouTube, it's Balzac. Just so you know, it's Balzac. And by the
Balzac
way,
Craft Brewing.
I have to get John, hold me to this goal. I want to say the word Hamlet more often.
Yes.
You said it twice, and I'm like, man, I wish I lived in a hamlet. I don't know if I do. Do I live in a hamlet, John? I don't know what a hamlet is.
It sounds so cool. It's a very,
I don't know what a hamlet was either.
It's just, your small outer area of the greater city, right? You guys have them all around the greater area that you guys live in. And so, and it's a connection to the UK roots that found in Canada.
I like that. And last beer question, John, then I'll shut up on beer.
I got a beer question too. Whenever
English ale, of course we think of the Guinness Irish ale, whatever. I also have heard traditionally they're served room temperature.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, typically in the pubs you would find in the countryside of England, back when they were founded, they can't keep it cold, right? So you just drink it at room temperature, low carbonation off of what they call an engine, which is just those old hand pumps that you see people pulling.
Right.
Yeah, that's how they do it. So
how about you guys?
We serve it cold. We do it cold at a low carbonation. Yeah, it's just for freshness and making sure no bacteria get in there. But you're more than welcome to take your beer out of the fridge and put it on the counter, and it's just as good. Yeah.
And what you said you served? Okay, this is probably our last beer question.
No.
You said you serve different English ales. What does that mean?
Yeah, so when you think of the English ale style, there is an English IPA, but it's not like the IPAs you see in New England or anything like that. They have a really low bitter hops flavor to them, so it's a lot smoother to drink. There's also a beer called a bitters, and a bitters is typically like your table beer that you would find in every UK pub. And a pint of bitters is a darker ale that's really smooth, very malty, very low ABV. And so then we have those. We have a British brown ale that I actually named the Dog's Bollocks. So, I got that when we were traveling in Edinburgh, Scotland. There was a store called the Mutt's Nuts, and I was just like, man, the Dog's Bollocks. Which the definition of that is that it's the best. Like if someone in the UK says it's the Dog's Bollocks, it's the best. So I called it the Dog's Bollocks British Brown Ale. So those are the types of beers that we focus on. We have a great Irish red as well. So just nothing crazy. We don't have any fruits in our beers or anything like that. We have a beautiful lager as well. That's a really just different grains that you would typically find in an English style
Let's
recipe.
go, John. You and I'll have to make a trip this year.
Yeah. I'm actually, so part of that expansion is we're actually looking at a distribution model of setting up a distributorship down here in the US so we can ship to ourselves and sell it in the US. So that's kind of our growth strategy.
That's incredible. Now, it's so interesting to me that you're business partnered with your dad in Canada in this brewery.
Mm-hmm.
And then you and your wife are business partners with your real estate group in Austin.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, how did you two start your real estate group, and how does it work with the two of you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really just kind of an organic thing. It all started with my wife just becoming a top producer in the city of Austin as a realtor. And, she's a very meticulous person that is very numbers driven. And she has a very direct way of coaching and holding people accountable based on numbers, no emotion. And so from that, she went from being a part of a team to being independent. She had kind of outgrown the team. It was not a bad thing. It was just the way that the market led her. And then from there, we swore we'd never start a team. And then next thing you know, one person reaches out to her through our network and just said, hey, can you help me with this? And before you know it, we had one agent, then two, and now we've got four, and my wife is producing. And it's been great because we operate our team very lean, and so our profitability is in a great place. Like we don't do 100 transactions, and a lot of people are now interested in our model because we believe that you're the best agents that we love working with are the ones that have visions outside of just producing homes, right? Just selling homes. And so we found the people that really gel with our model now are moms and dads and people that want to make $130,000, $150,000 a year off of home sales, but also still show up to the baseball games and want to find strategies and ways to reinvest that money into some future planning. And so it's been really great.
John, may I ask a follow-up on that, or do you want to go first?
I just want to jump in 1 second because you're saying that moms and dads who are working with you guys still showing up at the baseball games. By the way, there's a lot of business to be done there.
Yeah.
Christina's done a lot of business just showing up at baseball and soccer games.
That's true.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, look, the hardest part that I think a lot of real estate agents have when they first get in is establishing validity, right? Typical traditional models are like, call the 100 people you know in your network and grow. And it's pretty awkward for a lot of people to go, hey, I'm an agent now. And, there's this perception that, well, hell, everybody's a real estate agent. And so when we are able to help support them to get those first 10 transactions and bring that validity, those conversations at those baseball games suddenly are very fluid, and people realize, hey, it's not that hard to have a conversation when you know what you're doing. So a lot of business to be had at those baseball games.
So since we're on this side, you told me earlier off air that one of the reasons your wife did decide to accept to do a team and you guys do it together is because everyone recognized her ability to produce with accountability and goal setting. And I really want you to teach us for a minute. So what's the secret sauce? As a matter of fact, the phrase that I think should be the name of the podcast episode is "The path is in the math."
Yeah.
The path is in the math. That's a phrase you taught me. Is that something you guys developed? And what do you mean by all that?
Yeah, so we did not develop that. That is something that gets taught through the Keller Williams ecosystem, but it really is a truth in all things. I think that it doesn't matter if you're someone that's a sales professional, how many conversations do you need to lead to a conversion, right? And then how do you monitor that conversation to then lead to a higher conversion with fewer conversations? It all comes down to the numbers. When you're able to focus on the numbers, you could take the emotion out of the outcome, right? And so that's a lot of what we're doing. Even if somebody gets frustrated that something's not working, you can go back to the numbers and say, you're having 150 conversations and you're not converting. We should probably work on your scripts because something tells me that maybe in your dialogue, something's not resonating, right? And so dollars, I'll be honest, 90% of the time it is in the scripts and the ability of what you say to convince people to give you the chance, right? I've led high executive sales teams and enterprise sales teams at a high level, and it really does typically come down to that knowing your numbers helps you to convert.
Well, would you mind doing a master class for 4 minutes here or 3 minutes? Teach us how to be better in sales management. John is better than me at this even. I have so many salespeople, so many managers working for me. I probably could do sales in each area very well because, I'm going to pound the numbers. But teach me what it's like to be a great leader of large sales teams. What are the numbers you're going to break it down to? What activities?
Yeah,
what activities you're going to track?
Yeah, I think that, understanding your outbound activities and understanding, what you do today is what's going to happen in 90 days from now. So that's where your conversion is the biggest thing. I think that, whenever you have to coach somebody or say somebody has a unbelievable October and then suddenly their November and their December start to falter, you could typically go back 3 months in the past and say, okay, tell me what happened in this month. And usually there's a story there that's like, oh, I went on vacation for 2 weeks, or, oh, I was so focused on closing these big deals, I stopped doing my outbound. And you could point right to it right there and say, that's what happened. This is where the skip happened. You weren't continually filling your funnel because you were so concerned about closing the one, right? You have to balance both. And that's the dichotomy, is continuing to do the outreach, continuing to do the follow-up. I think the stats said that, it takes 12 touches to even buy a sweater on Instagram. So when you think about that, that's a pretty standard purchase that we all want sweaters at some point in time. There's a large market for that. Yeah. But when your market persona or your specific product may be very niche and you don't have 300 million potential customers, you have to be very cognizant in your outreach strategy of how long it's going to take you to get the close, and then how long it's going to take you to continually engage with those leads, how many touches you need to get them in that place. So if you're putting in high volume in January, chances are pretty good your March is going to look good. But don't, decrease that volume in your February because your March looks so awesome. Continue to do the things you need to do to get your numbers to where they need to be in future state.
I love it. That's fantastic, man. Now, so you and your wife have grown a team that sounds, lean and strong, light and fast. But let's talk a little bit about a lesser known business that your wife are involved in, which actually totally blew me away and really got my interest. And we've never talked about it on this show. So there's a game. I've never played this game. It's called Mahjong. Now, the only reason I've ever heard of this game, it's a glass tile game, I think.
Yeah, it's like dominoes.
Heard of it is because all the elderly people
Mm-hmm.
in the communities play this game. But apparently that's not the trend anymore.
Yeah, it's funny. So my wife has a company called Mahj Social Club. So Mahjong is just this, tile game or domino game that really is very traditional, has a large following in Southern roots. And yes, John, you are 100% correct. It's typically what you would find in a retirement home. But it's in movies, it's everywhere. And the thing is that it's suddenly like Legos, like it's suddenly taken off to this massive degree. And so my wife, through a social group that she's a part of here, a charitable organization called the Junior League of Austin, she won a silent auction item, and it was to have a Mahjong coach come to your house and coach. And from there, it turned into her doing Mahjong a few nights a month to, hey, and again, like I mentioned, my wife is very meticulous. So she was able to learn how to coach it. And then before you know it, she was coaching 4 or 5 times a month, and she was charging for it. And then before you know it, they're doing major events, and there's her and 2 partners. And now they've coached Kendra Scott. They've coached some massive names. And so it's just taken off to the point. And the great thing is the margins there are massive because there's a lot of human capital. Well, what they've done now is my wife has got this think bigger mentality where they're actually starting to license it in multiple states. They're putting it together in this great package where it's like, here's everything you get, plus our expertise. Here's how you run an event. And they do it with these elite families on a consistent basis. And even just like a girls' night, like it's crazy how busy they are and how much it's taken off. They're getting interviewed by magazines. And so it's really cool because the culture of our family is very entrepreneurial, and our kids now know the word Mahjong. Like it's set off this really cool ripple effect throughout our communities, where she's actually now hiring additional coaches through her network of other women that are just looking for another way to socialize and to be entrepreneurial on their own. So it's taken such a cool wave in our community and now across multiple states.
Hi, this is Melanie McCallan. Josh and I are just so grateful for the many investors who have already joined us at Accountable Equity. Accountable Equity is so much more than a capital group. It's really a community of accredited investors that want to learn and grow together. I just want to personally invite you, if you want to find out more about this type of investment and see if it's right for you and your family, please visit us at accountableequity.com.
Hey, it's Hal Elrod, author of The Miracle Morning, and you're listening to Capital Hacking. Enjoy.
It's amazing because, the social aspect in today's world, when people are behind computers and behind their phones and not really taking time to get together. I feel like that's kind of an old school concept where people used to get together, and it's so healthy for your mental state and your social awareness and human capital, which is what you said.
Yeah.
But that's really what she's representing, and the value that she's bringing and the friendships that are formed are just trickling out into different communities. But it's also financially like really good, right? I mean, it's low overhead. You're well into 6 figures, right?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, they with uncertainty of what it would make, have broken 6 figures, and again, it's the overhead is minimal, right? Once you're able to acquire a set of tiles and establish strategic partnerships too, with certain brands, et cetera, that are willing to give you massive discounts in order to represent their brand at these events, and there's such a market for it. There's companies that make Mahjong swag and tiles and everything. And so they're really working hard to, to make it a brand, right? Not just something they do for fun. They saw it as something bigger. And I think exactly like what you just said, John, they saw how it brought these women together and just the fun that these girls were having. And they're like, there's something here bigger than us. And it's inspired so much love and community amongst all these women that typically may not have taken the leap on it. So it's really cool to see what it's done for her too. She's always got a spark, but it's now a bigger spark with something that really is inspiring to her. So,
and to add on to that, if you don't mind, I'd love to understand it a little better, because what would it compete against? Right? Would it compete against the old, let's call it the old-fashioned Tupperware parties? Then it would be the modern jewelry parties or swag, fancy bag. Where does it fit into the ecosystem of the economy?
It's funny. There is a bit of that for sure, right? The collective. Hey, everyone, I've got a coach coming to my house these nights, but it's also kind of in a degree of its own. Like there's not a lot of people going around teaching dominoes or teaching people how to play rummy or Monopoly. Like none of that stuff exists. And so I would say it's probably in that realm of like, the ecosystems of permanent jewelry and things like that, where people get together. But more importantly, like it's kind of creating its own niche for itself, right? Yeah, it's really been interesting to see how they've really embraced the fact that it's bigger than just a game. I think that's what's super interesting, and the culture of it to be bigger than just a party. It's the follow up, and that's the other thing too. I mean, from every single time that she hosts, she probably gets 2 more bookings from that. So when you think that one of the events they did, there was like 110 women in the room doing a tournament. Yeah. So, I mean, you're essentially constantly filling the funnel with paying customers that are ready to go. It's incredible.
That really is. And then the licensing that she's doing. So, okay, I've got all kinds of questions. What other cities is she moving into? And with the licensing, is she going to franchise this, or what? Like, how's that going to look?
Yeah. So the franchising side gets more technical and a bit more iffy. The licensing side is a lot more clear and concise. There's a lot less necessary from a legality perspective, as well as state regulations. So right now, the states that they've established one in Dallas. They've got one in Florida, moving into South Carolina. Those are the states that they feel the most comfortable with right now. There's one that's going to be building in Houston soon too. So, all of these places the licensing side is a lot easier, where it's like a bit of a choose your own adventure. We give you the model. We show you how it's done. Here's our historic value of what pitfalls we've overcome. And then, this is how we envision this for you. Right. And if you make, 6 figures, great. If you choose to do it 3 or 4 times a month, like you're not losing money on it. It's just adding value. Right. And that aligns with them culturally. Is they're not trying to make money on it, but they want a little bit of creative control so that they know that the culture stays the same. If someone's going to use their branding, they want to make sure that they show up at their best. Right. So that's really where the stamp of the licensing model comes into play.
It's awesome.
Michael, I mean, at the end of all this, I think we have a family, we're learning a lot about your family as entrepreneurial. Of all the things you're involved in, which one do you think has the most potential for your family going forward? Or how do you guys see the next 5 years with all this?
Yeah, I think the real estate team is really our focus. I really do. We love our team. We've been very specific about who we're adding. And I say this when people join, and my wife and I are on the same page here of like, we're so grateful that people trust their families in our hands. Right. It's bigger than real estate transactions. They're choosing our vehicle to drive the wealth of their family, putting food on the table, keeping a roof over their heads. And that means a lot to us. Right. And so it helps to drive us to show up. And so when that's a part of who you are, what your why is, it definitely makes that feeling of that's the right choice and that's the right focus so much more. I'd like to selfishly say it would be the brewery, but I think the thing is, it's like that's a family vision for us as a family privately. Yeah. This allows us to help impact other families and give. And the determination of that giving is really based on how we show up, and it holds us accountable to show up at our best.
I love it. So, Josh, I think we're going to name this show actually called The Dogs Bullocks.
I don't know how to spell it. I'll have to Google
The dog's bollocks. Bollocks.
Oh, it's amazing. So, Michael, if our listeners want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, look, social is the easiest way. Michael Ward Growth, and on Instagram, and that's the most fluid way. You can follow us on Ward Realty Group. If you do want to check out the Mahjong side and tell your wife to join one of the nights that they do, it's Mahj Social Club, and those are the best ways to get a hold of us.
Spell that for us if you don't mind.
Mahj Social Club.
All one word there. Okay. .com. I think a lot of us want to check that out, even if just to learn about that business.
It's wild, man. I'll tell you what, man. Everyone thinks it's just a female-driven sport. I've got a couple times where me and a few husbands have sat across from each other, yelling at each other late into the night about somebody cheating or not. So it gets to be just like cards or dice or dominoes. So it gets to be a lot of fun, and it's really simple to learn too. So.
That's awesome. Well, thank you and congratulations on everything, Michael.
I appreciate that, y'all. I'm grateful for the time. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're the best, buddy. Thank you.
Cheers.
Damn straight. We just got we got to the end of another great show. And everyone listening right now, you're the family and friends. Thanks for staying till the end.
That was so fun. And hey, hit the like, hit subscribe. We're here to serve you guys. That's why we're doing this show. Josh is not paying me. I'm doing this off of my quote unquote sweat equity because we want to make a difference in your life. And then that ripple effect will continue to touch the world.
Hey, amen, brother. Please check us out on capitalhacking.com, all the social media threads. And yes, I know you've probably already sent this episode to one of your best friends. Thank you. We love you. Just go right into your iPhone, hit the plus symbol. We'll talk to you later. See you next week.
Share.